It's not about the quantitative numbers or so. It's more about the qualitative feeling of a doubled financial security, because these very important partners, they not only want to provide for their family emotionally, they want to provide for their family financially. They want to contribute. They want to be eye to eye again.
Hi there, folks, ladies, gentlemen, and people. My name is Anthony Taylor. I'm very excited to welcome you to today's episode of the Strategy and Leadership Podcast. My guest today is Uwe Dockhorn. He is the Lifestyle Liberator, founder of the AIM system, and he has over 33,000 hours of coaching. Uwe and I met while I was on his podcast the other day, so I'm very excited to be able to share his story of what he does for people. Uwe, how are you today?
I'm fine. I'm super excited to be on your show today, Anthony.
Oh, likewise.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So why don't you, that was a brief bio, but why don't you tell our listeners a bit about who you are and how did you get to where you are right now?
Right. So let's get right to it. So as I told you before, it's a little, I want to dive a little bit deeper because it's really important that listeners understand what my motivation is, why I'm doing this so long. And I really can honestly say today, I really love what I do. So, and fortunate enough getting paid for that, but it wasn't always like that. So you see, 6 days before Christmas in 2016, my mother died and I became the last remaining member of my close family. And, can you just imagine the full understanding of what is truly important in life that is held in a moment like that? So she was the one that brought me into this world, and I always cherished that I was there for her, holding her hands when she left. And I loved my family, and it was my safe haven, like a campfire that you can come to, feel totally comfortable around and just be part of a family. But as I said, it wasn't always like this. As a young boy, I was sexually abused and told no one. I relied on that safe haven of family until I lost two very important members. My uncle when I was 16 and my father when I was 23. Something just broke inside of me. And I started to believe, my family has given up on me. I distanced myself from the rest of them, even my mother, because I didn't tell her. I just couldn't. And I didn't feel comfortable telling anyone what I was going through. So when I looked around, I thought everyone else had it together and it was just me not coping. So after the death of my uncle and my dad, I tried everything to compensate for the big hole inside of me where my family used to be, but nothing worked. So I became isolated, separated from friends, lost my job. I was overwhelmed, physically and emotionally exhausted, and felt there was no reason for being in this world. And I was convinced that I couldn't feel anything. And the truth was, I didn't feel anything. I was numb. So that's when I found myself on the edge of a bridge. And I remember it was a crystal clear, but bitterly cold winter night. And I was watching the stars, breathing the cold air in and out. I could see my breath, and I slowly leaned forward. I let go. But in that moment, something happened. While everything else was pitch black inside and out, I saw a tiny little light inside me. And then I felt it. Something sitting right under my nose, and because I hadn't been able to feel it, I couldn't perceive it. So for the very first time since my father had died 5 years before that, I felt something inside me and it drew me back. That night, I learned an important lesson. And it took me more than 20 years of continuous personal development to create the AIM system you mentioned earlier. It's my proprietary work that creates lasting results in people in 8 hours or less. So, like on the bridge that night, the secret that nobody in the industry of transformation and health is focusing on. Letting go is only 50% of the equation. Without the other half of the equation, letting go leaves you in free fall. So, what if I tell you, Anthony, the other 50% after you let go is to feel, perceive, and let in what is already there. It's like a muscle, letting go and letting in. It's a two-part mechanism, and it happens at the same time always. We're just so focused on letting go that we miss the opportunity to consciously bring in what is there in that very moment to help you to get into action and do things differently. And for the very first time since my father had died, I felt something inside me on that bridge, and it drew me back from jumping. I made myself a promise over 27 years ago, and I'm still keeping today. And it's helping other people to learn this. And it's kind of like breathing in and breathing out. Letting go is like breathing something out of your system, and letting in is like breathing in what is already there from your system. So both are connected. So can you see how important it is to understand letting go and letting in for your well-being? So, and that also means you can create your own letting go and letting in mechanism to become your very own anti-burnout system. And that is so cool. And this is kind of like the foundation of how I work with my clients now. And it really over time was getting, it wasn't there at the beginning, but kind of like it evolved over time. And so I'm really fortunate enough to tell you again, I love what I do because of that experience.
Yeah, I get that. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing, really, because it's, I know it's being really vulnerable and open. And I think that there's a lot of things, really just to honor that, but we can take away as leaders. And one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on the show is, there's a lot of people dealing with grief right now. And grief comes in a lot of ways. There's a lot of loss through COVID, whether that's like loss of loved ones, whether that's loss of independence, whether that's loss of work. There's just so many emotions that I think people are holding on to because they're not sure if it's done. I also have experienced a lot of loss in my life. And one of my clients, what's up, Pete? He said, what you don't realize in the loss, it gives you a tremendous gift. It's a gift to help others through loss. And so I really like hey, you have to first let go, and you have to let go of some of that stuff, but then you also have to bring in all of those things. So, as it relates to your coaching, and as you relate to senior leaders right now that are dealing with a lot of stuff, what do you want them to know? What do you want them to take away for them to make the most of the coming months and years so that they can, really regain control and really appreciate their work and personal lives again?
Well, as you know, I'm working mostly with I call not only the executives, C-suite, medical professionals, but and business owners. I also work with their VIPs, as I call them. They're very important partners. And I think it's all about the family. And, in these times, as we spent, for the last 18 months or so, or even more, 24/7 with your close family and with your life partners, it can get a lot dense, and this affects your business automatically. So having a happy family is going to be the motivation for, having a successful, sustainable business and also being driven by that motivation. And I mentioned that safe haven, kind of like having that safe haven. And when I started working with these, with my clients, what I realized was over time that from the perspective of their spouses or life partners, the VIPs, they are more and more feeling abandoned and asking themselves, what about me? What is the next step in my career? Because on the other side, they see that, their partners are up here and they are more down here. And so they're asking themselves, what is the next step in my career? They want to achieve something as well, but, they question themselves. They feel guilty sometimes because of the kids. And that is simply just not a good and healthy relationship, right? And so over time, I realized that this imbalance I have to address, because most of the time when I worked with the business owners, the C-suite, and their life partners, they came to me and say, well, Uwe, can you become my coach too? And I say, yeah, okay, lucky me, yes, of course. But I realized this unbalance, and there's a pattern in these high achiever families. So I addressed this with the AIM system, and it stands, what I do is, I'm not a family counselor, so what I do and what differentiates me also from other coaches is I coach them individually right from the start. So they really have, can regain their independence within their relationship and really start to level up to each other again. And we do this in regular evaluation sessions, but I should call them more like falling back in love sessions, where, and me, because of my podcast, a lot of goosebumps moments are happening there. And so where they can really find themselves the deeper connection that they so love and they send out. And so that's the way, the first step to really leveling up to each other in the AIM system. And so they can upgrade to a true interdependent relationship. And my promise to them is to get back your family mojo, get back in your family vision or in your flow, and double your financial security. And there's something to it for the VIPs, because, it's not about the quantitative numbers or so. It's more about the qualitative feeling of a doubled financial security, because these very important partners, they not only want to provide for their family emotionally, they want to provide for their family financially. They want to contribute. They want to be eye to eye again. And so this is what I help them with. And therefore, the promise is also to double their financial security. So, they really can see eye to eye again and live in abundance in all areas of their life without feeling guilty or constantly questioning themselves, or even, having these worse side effects of a divorce. So essentially, I help them to divorce-proof their marriage.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. It's Anthony here again. I just wanted to let you know, if you're enjoying today's episode, I'd love it if you could give us a review and a comment to let us know where you're listening from. It means a lot to us. It helps us with the algorithm. It also helps us get into the hands of more people so that we can keep bringing great guests onto the show. So please do that. Also, if you or your team are planning a strategic planning offsite coming up, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to see if we're a fit to facilitate, to support you and your team getting on the same page and getting clear about where you want to go. So you can visit SMEstrategy.net or click the link in the description. We'd appreciate both of those things. Now get us back to the episode. So I want to ask you about the 3 steps in the AIM system, but before I do that, I think it's just, looking at the symptoms of it. So what, we heard is, okay, there's the business owner whose head's down in their business, and they have their own feelings of guilt. They have guilt in missing this from the business. They have guilt in missing this from their personal life, because they know that they're sacrificing because it's important. In their minds, in my experience, they feel like they are doing the right thing, while still recognizing that there's a gap. But the other thing that I've experienced as a business owner and anecdotally through my clients, is that they're not actually sharing what they're dealing with. So they're kind of isolating themselves, and then the partner is isolating themselves because they don't want to burden their partner. So there's this like dual not wanting to burden and independence, which thinks that it's helping, and it in fact doesn't. So let me know if that tracks. And then what are the 3 steps in the AIM system that our listeners can start thinking about? Hey, like, is this me? And how can I get that realignment?
Absolutely. So you're absolutely right with what you just said. So it's really about the isolation, and they do things that are counterproductive. So they kind of like think they have to do more in some way or form, and just protect their loved ones, not communicating with them, but it's just counterproductive. So it's just causing the opposite, because it's all about sharing your true emotions with your partner, and to have that level of being eye to eye with your partner at home. And if you don't have that, if you're always kind of like up there, and even if you don't perceive that for yourself, ask your partner how they perceive it, and then the conversations can start. And yes, the AIM system addresses this. So I shared the letting go, letting in piece at the beginning, and it's kind of like working as an anti-burnout system, as I mentioned. And first, the AIM system is also an acronym for activation, implementation, and manifestation. So essentially what that means is we activate your internal anti-burnout system by activating this mechanism I shared with you that I realized, those decades ago, about letting go and letting in. Because if you can't feel that internally and always let go of things, you're not realizing, well, you can let in something else in the same moment, the same time.
So just to be clear, the activation is in fact activating the letting go and the letting in. Some might call it emotions and feelings. Okay, got it.
Well, it's about, it's really about, there's a very thorough session to it. It's leading up to it. So you really get step-by-step guided by me personally to a point where we also identify what I call the elephant thinking. So there's a core elephant thinking that blocks you, and it is kind of like the initiator of all your beliefs and patterns and resulting sticky patterns that occur in your behavior, and you never get rid of. So we identify this really at the beginning, and then we go into this deep session where actually learn how to let go of that and replace it with something more positive and hopeful that creates a new memory, that creates a new experience that you can feel, that you can recall, that you can go back to and be motivated by it because you've already done it. And then you just learn over time to implement it day by day and put it in all 7 areas of your life, so you can really get to that feeling of abundance that we all want.
Got it. So that's the activation. Is the taking and replacing, is that part of the implementation, or is that something different?
No, the implementation I just mentioned, it's kind of like, the activation is just getting this system internally, making you aware. You understand how to use it, being conscious about it, and start implementing it. And then the implementation phase is really, we go to all the 7 areas in life so you can implement it. And then the manifestation means, it's all about, because we are so used over decades with our beliefs that we, at one point we need to manifest, but before we get to manifestation, we need to learn something. And that is what I have, why I have it in my program, is you will experience setbacks, and they're good. You will return to old behavior even after the activation, and that's a good thing. Because it just naturally, it takes some time. So, but I addressed this over the years. I realized this is an important issue. You have to purposefully have a setback and learn from it. So then you are able to really manifest kind of like in all areas, new beliefs, and getting to the core of it. And it accumulates into what is really the most important piece here is your identity. And there's this saying from Mark Twain, the two most important days in your life are the day when you're born and the day you find out why. So at that level, only at that level, you will be able to actually feel and perceive, who are you? Why are you here? You truly feel it and you get goosebumps and you get moved by it. So who can say something like that? And this is what I learned, and this is what I help my clients with, to have that certainty, that internal certainty that is so important. Because from that certainty, confidence, authenticity, everything comes automatically. You're just so certain about yourself and you understand, this is why I'm here, this is why I do it, and have that kind of certainty, you're playing in a different level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it being like taking it back to what we shared before, coming through a place of so much uncertainty and having this, the fragility of, what your life was. I know a lot of people had their lives disrupted, and being able to like reconnect with who you are and why you are, in order to make a big difference, not only in your personal life, the lives of your VIPs, the people that are closest to you, and to recognize, how you might not be what I would call in alignment around that, getting realignment, reconnected. And one of the other things I heard out of what you said, Uwe, was, the fact that there's ingrained behaviors, as you look at like social psychology and why people do things that they do, that there's ingrained behaviors that have been programmed at such a young age. And for you listeners, is think about, like, of course, there's this for you, there's this for your spouses, and there's this for your staff, like in the context of what we're talking about, it's, your spouse partner, but, it applies to everybody that you work with, and everybody is going through something. Go ahead, Uwe.
No, I'm sorry. I just want to add to what you just said. It makes you a better leader. Mm-hmm. It definitely makes you a better leader, not only because of the motivation at home, but of the certainty about your partner, about yourself. That is the most influential thing you can do for yourself. So becoming and stepping up in that regard and really understand what is your identity, because it's so important to have that. And over the years, when people struggle in life with whatever they do, it always comes back to something they told themselves. And I call this, in one of my 3 foundational principles, is the elephant thinking effect. I mentioned it earlier. And you just started telling yourself something as a reaction to something that happened in your past, and you programmed yourself automatically with that, and you started to believe. And over time, this belief became a pattern, and this pattern now drives your behavior. So, and we are going really backwards, reverse engineering, to find and discover that first domino piece, so to speak, that just initiated everything. And that brings a huge relief that you never thought it would exist. And this is when you're really open to let in and dive into, what can I allow myself to become? Who am I truly? So we need to first put all the bad stuff away, and the 800-pound gorilla, so to speak, get rid of it off of your shoulders, and wow, then you feel the energy and the vitality coming through.
Yeah. And one of the things that you touched on is, if you have that like confidence, but it's like that idea of, you got to put your own gas mask, whatever, you know what I mean, mask, oxygen mask first, is that you can't support other people through a challenging time if you're not grounded first. So for those of you, as you're looking and saying, hey, we're finishing up the year, or you're starting the year, you're saying, like, I invite you, and Uwe invites you to do some personal work and reflect and say, hey, where are you at in this equation, so that you can support others? And then, let's even scrap that. Support yourself. Do what you got to do to make yourself the best, because the relationship with self is number one. So, Uwe, where can people get a hold of you? Where can people learn more about your programs and connect with you on your podcast?
Absolutely. So my podcast is called Lift Off with Energizing Results. It's on Apple Podcast. I can easily find it there. It's already 5-star rated. And when you want to, thank you. When you want to have a chat with me, just go to my website. It's www.uwedockhorn.com. That's UWEDOCKHORN.com. And you always find kind of like on the hello bar, if there are any webinars up, I always do them live. And that's a great opportunity to see how I help and support my clients. You don't need your credit card. It's just a live demonstration. It's live, cameras on, kind of like a boardroom meeting. And just can join me there where I dive a little deeper into the AIM system and also talk about the 3 foundational principles.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Uwe. And again, for everybody listening, I encourage you to, if you're looking for something to do some self-reflection on, do it, whether it's with Uwe or someone else, but it's really going to pay dividends, both in how you feel, your ability to have a great personal relationship, and your ability to be a leader. So thank you, Uwe. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today. I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much. I don't know if we have still more time. I could share a little secret vitality formula. Is that still okay?
Okay, real quick, 90 seconds or less if you can.
Okay, so we should do it together. But anyway, so just imagine there's a line, there's a scale, and on the left side of the scale there is fear. What is this on the other side? Anthony, what is on the other side of that scale of fear?
I want to say like pleasure or benefit, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. It's trust.
Okay.
And then beneath there's a second line, but this time it's an arrow. It starts on the left and it goes to the right. On the left side is a 0, and on the right side is the infinity symbol. So now we have a scale above from trust, from fear to trust.
Okay.
And where are you on that scale, by the way, at the moment? Closer to fear or closer to trust?
I'm closer to fear today, yes.
You're closer to fear today.
I'm just on the left side.
It.
Actually, no, I'm teetering the line today, but we'll call it just on the edge of fear.
Okay, let's do it there. Okay, and beneath the line it starts by 0 and it goes into infinity. So what's the name of the second line?
Possibility.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Not bad.
Or time. I don't know.
Energy.
Okay.
So now, just imagine, where are you on that scale? The more you allow fear to let into your life, lesser energy is the result. The more you start trusting yourself, the more energy you have. Make sense?
It makes sense. I like it.
And the energy formula is, of course, energy equals trust minus fear. E equals T minus F. That's the secret vitality formula. Just wanted to give it also to you.
I love that. Well, I appreciate that you did that for us. So everybody take a look. So I encourage you. I'm seeing where I'm falling in those, but look at that energy vitality formula and how that can guide you and see where you're falling in there. So I love that. Thanks, Uwe. I appreciate that a lot.
Thanks so much for allowing me.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, folks and people, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. My guest, Uwe Dockhorn. I'm going to bring my camera back up here. Uwe Dockhorn, who is the CEO of Energizing Results. Be sure to check out his podcast. You can find him on LinkedIn. He's a lifestyle liberator, and he just gave us a great equation to maximize our energy. So thanks so much for joining us. This has been the Strategy and Leadership. My name is Anthony Taylor, Strategy and Leadership Podcast, Anthony Taylor. Thanks all for joining, and we'll see you next time.